we messed up. Hold on. All right, enough of that. I can only list that for so long. Good morning. We what I tried to do is I tried to get my outro video ready so I can just click on it when I leave, but evidently I hit the wrong one. So, anyways, good morning. I hope all is well. Hope you enjoyed your evening last night. We went to my youngest had a choir concert, and we went to that. I recorded it. I put it up on YouTube, but I don't make it public. So sucks to be you guys. Sorry about that. Anyways, it's for family and friends. I've got glasses on. Check this out. I don't know if you guys can see this. My eye is all messed up. Like, it looks like my wife kicked my ass, right? But she didn't. It was a self-defense incident. So what happened was I was outside and I had this machete, and what happened was this thing punched me in the face and I hacked at it. It was called poison ivy or lilac or whatever the hell, and it got me in the face. So I thought it was like every year I have, like, for the last, I don't know, 20 years, we go out in the backyard, we do a bunch of yard work, and usually I'm head to toe. This year it was only this arm and this eye. I think I would rather have it all over the legs than the eye, but hey, what are you going to do, right? So that's what's going on. Now, it's been an interesting week booking loads. I was able to try a new script with negotiating with some brokers, and it actually works. I was like, it's kind of like opening a magic box or something. It was pretty cool. The book that we're reviewing, Negotiating as If Your Life Depended on It, I believe by Chris Voss, that has been a seriously good book. So if you don't have I'll put a link up to it. Here, we'll do it right now. Let's see. I think I put up a link. I almost said yesterday, but Monday. Yesterday I did not do my walking live on the small channel because Pale Rider went live right at 7. And I didn't want to step on him. He and I have good friends, so we try not to step each other on the live feeds. Usually he goes later, so that's why I thought 7 o'clock would have been safe. But if you guys can support his channel, that would be great. PRTV, for those you don't know. And let me see here. It's going to take me a minute to get to this. We'll do it later. Screw this. I'm sure chat is kind of slow right now, so that's interesting. But I wanted to talk about something that happened a few days ago. Asian Mai talked about it. Oh, never split the difference. Thank you, Mrs. A. You are correct. If I can find, let me see here. Never. There we go. Never split the difference. Negotiating as if your life depended on it. That's why I get the. That's why I get the issues there, or the confusion, I guess. Share screen. There you go. Share. I'll put this link in the description. Check it out if you guys don't mind. Anyways, that's this has been a great book so far. DIY and I are going to be doing a book review on it. He's probably going to get through it faster than me because he listens to audiobooks. He has a big lawn. And or he's in the truck still at times, whereas audiobooks I could probably get, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes at a time every night with the chores that I do. So anyways, there's the book. Check it out. I put the link in the description. I know Facebook doesn't like that link, but Facebook can also suck it. So anyways, good morning. The thing I wanted to talk about was one of the things that we're seeing is there was a rest area in Georgia. I don't know if you guys heard about this, where people were, it was either one person or several people had drilled little holes. They had a little drill bit, small diameter, and they didn't just poke one hole in each tire. They put like 10 holes in each tire on the sidewalls. And so about many drivers woke up with all 18 tires flat. And it goes to show that I don't know if insurance would even cover that, because that's considered vandalism. But think about how much it costs for all 18 tires. I mean, so you can wake up one morning and boom, it's like 10, 15 grand right there worth the damage just in tires alone. And it's quiet. I'm surprised someone's dash cam didn't catch this guy. And these are the dangers that are being faced on the road there. And so when I read stories like that, sometimes I'm like, yeah, maybe I'm better off at home. Because it's bad enough that trucking companies and owner operators are struggling right now, but to have someone come in and just completely obliterate your business over what? Why? There was no tactical advantage of doing that. It's been theorized that maybe a local tire shop hires this guy to do this, but it's not guaranteed you're going to call that tire shop, right? And how suspicious would that be? So it's you got to be careful where you park. We had a truck broken into there outside of Memphis. What they did is they cut the tab that your lock locks onto. So it kept the lock intact, it kept the seal intact, and they were able to open the trailer door and doors. And now, while our driver didn't have anything worth stealing, 3 other trucks in the same rest area did not fare so well. And when I was being trained as a truck driver, my trainer hated truck stops. He would rather go to rest areas or sleep at the shipper receiver. And I'm always a little bit more like aware of my surroundings in the rest areas because there's no cameras out there. There might be one or two, but other than other people's dash cams, it's there was a up in rest area north of Kansas City. There was North Platte. I think that was the rest area. Anyways, there was a guy just using the bathroom that was robbed and shot. I mean, and rest areas are easy target areas because you can be in and out. No one's none the wiser. In this day and age where it's normal to wear a mask now, it's you got to really take care of yourselves out there. You got to really be observant. You know, I encourage people to have some kind of self defense item on them at all times. What that looks like, that's up to you. Follow your state, local laws. And if you want information on the pew pews, it's on the other channel as far as carrying in the vehicle. But there's other methods of self defense as well. And the more people get the message that we're willing to defend ourselves and our property, then maybe it would cut it down, but maybe not. Criminals are bold these days. They'll challenge cops flat out just to, it's like, who knows, right? So, anyways, enough doom and gloom. Just be aware of your surroundings, aware where you park, and just know that in South Georgia, there's someone going around drilling tires. And what are you going to do if you wake up and all 18 of your tires are flat? And they have to be replaced. I mean, they hit the sidewall, so the person knew what they were doing. And there's some footage of a protest in Europe somewhere where a whole group of people were doing that. And it's one of those things where, and here's a trend that's happening in Europe. It's one of those things where the protesters are going to like museums and throwing soup and stuff like that onto the paintings. They're going in the grocery stores and they're literally breaking all the bottles and dumping the milk out to protest, the whole PETA thing. You have people actively destroying your livelihood if they don't agree on how you're making your livelihood. And that's just adding to the pressures that we already see as small business owners. And so, I was having a conversation with the driver the other day about self-defense. He doesn't carry a firearm in the truck, which, where he goes, I don't blame him because some of the states wouldn't be very friendly towards it. But you got to have something. And so we talked about that. But would your business survive if you woke up one day and all 18 of your tires were trashed? So that's something to consider. So I know I got the glasses on today. The glare is kind of annoying, but again, I have big puffy eyes because of the poison ivy, so try not to look too ugly for you guys. I'd rather have the glare. But I didn't want to wear sunglasses, so I look like some other YouTubers, like with sunglasses, thinking I'm super cool, whatever. I didn't want to be that guy either. So, WCF Invader, dope. CB, what's up? Randy, what's up? Still in Wildwood, Florida. Yeah, I see all the lights that I saw that your truck was driven. I saw all the stuff. I'm ready for some load board magic. Well, here's the magical thing. Don't use one. Which you've already figured that out, right? But we will go over the 1, 2, 3 load board. Mrs. A never split the difference. Thank you. There's the Amazon link if you guys are curious about the book. Desidoki Pam, good morning. Use my link too, or else. What's up, CDN? Good to chat with you yesterday. Well, we texted. We didn't really talk. Tolga, what's up? Greg Zimmer, good morning. Truck with T-Bone, good morning. Buck Brown, I've heard about this, but not locally. About the tire thing, yeah, it was. I forget where it's at. One of my drivers called and said, "Dude, I was right near there. Glad it didn't happen to me because it would have put him out, guaranteed." I mean, what are you looking at? $10,000-$15,000 worth of damage there. It's bad enough that labor and everything else is through the roof, and then someone wants to to drill. Because think about it, you put new tires on your truck or your trailer or both, and you think you're good for a couple of years, depending on how much you drive. And so you've already made that expense, and then someone comes along and wipes that out. Because you sit there and like, well, I got 2 years. I've got plenty of tread. I bought new tires. We're good, right? So it's that, and in my career, I've been driving since 2008, and my dad was an owner operator before that. So I've been a part of this industry for a long time, and I've never ever heard of that. Now, my father-in-law has a story of him going down this road. I forget where it was, where someone came up and shot one of his tires out. I think a steer. But that's this is different. And also airlines are being cut as well. And so here's my theory on this, okay? And I was going to do a video about this, but we'll mention it now. You're at the fuel island, and the person in front of you is taking their time, and you're stressed out because that broker put you on a load that you wanted to take, but it was going to be tight, and you're stressed out to the max. Your truck payment's behind. You don't even know how much fuel you can afford to get. If you get too much, you won't make anything off this load. You're stressed out, and the guy in front of you is stressed out. He doesn't care about you. He's oblivious to his surroundings, and you sit there for 15, 20 minutes. Meanwhile, you can't move to another lane because the fuel islands are packed because everybody's doing that. Murfreesboro, Tennessee pilot. Anybody? Right? And then you just lose it. Your emotions take over. You just lose it. And you're seeing a lot of people getting, in fights at the fuel island. A couple of years ago, there's even a few people that were shooting each other at the fuel island. The Pilot Pacific is a classic place for that scenario because there's nowhere to go. And you got those big long stairs, and there's a subway in there, and that usually takes forever, right? So, and as more and more people lose their sanity, these kind of incidents are going to happen over and over and over again. So you got to be extra vigilant about protecting yourself, protecting your property, and make sure that overnight someone doesn't wipe out your entire business over what? Petty things, over something malicious, right? And so, I mean, what can you do? Right? So what you can do is the number one most important thing. I don't care if you're a business owner, company driver, an office jockey, is to have 100% control of your emotions. It's okay to have emotions, but you got to be in control. Take a deep breath. If you're upset or angry, cortisol levels are risen. You're not going to sleep right. You're not going to eat right. And you're stressed to the max, and you won't be able to have the clarity you need to get through whatever your adrenaline's pumping you up for. And that's the single most important thing you can do. We can talk about numbers. We can talk about low boards. We can talk about strategies. We can talk about how to negotiate. It's tough negotiating with a broker when you're upset, when you're angry, when you're stressed out. They can hear it in your voice. And it makes for an unpleasant conversation. Well, if it's an unpleasant conversation, then it's going to be a short conversation. And right away, when someone answers the phone, I can kind of feel them out right off the bat and say, okay, this person is a no nonsense. He's going to put his rate out, set the anchor, and he's not going to budge. Now I still try. And the ones that kind of recognize that about themselves, that's where they email only, right? Because you can put a smile on the email and say, "Hey, thanks for da 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 da," and but still be mad at the same time, right? You could be polite and mad at the same time. They're none the wiser. But yesterday I used part of my new script that worked really well based off this book that's in the link is in the description, or the not description, but the chat. And it worked. But half the reason why it worked was because the person I talked to was a sweet sounding lady. It was a broker that I've used before, not her individually, but the brokerage I've used many, many times. And they started off pretty low, and I was able to get them up a little bit. And it was a pleasant transaction for both parties. So guess what? That makes it memorable for her. Like sometimes the broker will just look, oh man, this driver's rude. But yeah, here you go. Here's your money. Boom, And so the new strategy is working. Well, I guess it's not really a new strategy, it's an additional strategy that I've already been using. So Utah trucker, good morning. Sadly, legally owned PBE, so to speak, can get you in more trouble than those breaking in or threatening you. It's a crazy world. Yes, it is. We literally remember as a kid, you'd have that opposite world game, right? We're literally living that. Years of playing opposite world, opposite day, have you've prepared for this moment. Seriously, politician says one thing, believe exactly the opposite. You know, and that's why places like Seattle, Portland, Cleveland, parts of Springfield are faltering because of the DAs. They're letting these people out faster than they can come in. And, you know, and I carry insurance with me just in case I have to, defend myself. Because that can bankrupt you. That can put you in jail. So, some streamers use sunglasses because the studio type lights accept the doctor disrespect. Yeah, but I'm not a sunglass guy. I don't even wear them a lot outside. Like if we go to an amusement park or if we're gonna be outside for a while, I mean these automatically tint dark, so I never need them. I do have one pair of prescription sunglasses, but for the most part, I don't drive with sunglasses on. I like being able to see my gauges clearly. Um, and here, let me read this comment here since no one's addressing it. Okay, someone just handled that. All right. So I'm not the guy that's going to wear sunglasses while live. It's like I know that's a thing with some people, and that's not me. And so, like, if I'm outside, or if I'm out, what I should have been doing is I should have been wearing glasses outside. Should have been wearing one of my safety goggles, that or sunglass tint. Because what I used to do before I needed glasses, I would go to the welding supply store, and I would buy these tinted safety glasses that looked just like Oakley's, and they work really well. They were impact resistant, and I like the mirror style, and so I would buy those. They're like guitar picks. They're in every room of the house. They're in every vehicle. You don't know what you're going to get, But I primarily don't wear a whole lot of sunglasses, so not anymore. About the carry topic, all I can say is I never leave home without my American Express. It's a good way to put it. Louisiana. Was that where the incident was? I thought it was in Georgia. It's other truckers, I bet. Well, that's what Agent Mai mentioned, right? Pigtail, good morning. You are late. No big deal. The biggest problem here in Europe is illegal immigrants and access to trailer, especially if you're heading to the UK. Yeah, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of that here too. That's protest vandalism, right? But they buy the stuff off the shelves that we bring to the stores, right? What's a decent Midwest to West reefer lane these days? Dry van. We can look at that, CB. Let's check that out. Let's quit talking doom and gloom. Let's get it. Let's get back. Let's get to business. And Pigtails quoting '80s songs. If you're thinking about Dutch's comment, I tried approving that. YouTube gave me the message that another mod handled it, but nothing's happened. Yeah, I got the same thing. So immigrant might be a hot word. So because of the topic. So let's minimize that. All right, so this is what I would do if I'm trying to find a lane, right? So CB, we're going to help you out here. Let's go back to your comment and highlight it. There you go. So what I do is I go to load availability, go to our hot market maps that you guys love so much. Let's put this on reefer. Now, what you want to do is pick one of these green states. And obviously California is the most green state. Then you got Oregon and Washington. So let's look at. So what we would want to do is like, okay, so there's quite a few in Missouri. Illinois looks pretty good. And Indiana looks pretty good. So let's do Indiana. Click on that. See what pops up here. Dallas, Lakeland, Carlisle, Houston. You might be able to figure out a triangle, like maybe Indiana to Texas, like Houston, and then Texas to California. Now, I do know that, and this is a warning, the rates and volumes, especially on the DAT board, coming out of Washington, Oregon, are horrible. Like I was talking with one of my drivers about that yesterday. Reefer volumes out of Washington, Oregon are absolute trash. California is the only state with more outgoing than going in right now, which is why they're not paying you to go in there. So you're looking at either California, like even Arizona is better than Oregon and Washington right now when it comes to reefer volumes on the DAT board. On the 123, looks like it's the same thing. Not a whole lot going from Indiana to the West Coast. It's all going Ohio or Houston or east. Wisconsin, Michigan. So that's probably not a good idea. So let's look at Wisconsin. Now I'm struggling to get decent rates out of Wisconsin too in the reefer world and in the van world, especially the van world. So not everything's going northeast. It's like, okay, here we go. Here's Sumner, Washington, Sun Prairie to Sumner, which is going to be Seattle area. Average rates are about 43 ish. Um, but then when you come down to Washington, there's literally 2 loads going from Sumner to anywhere. So obviously that's out. Now, if I can find a load that's delivered in California, because I can do a rate check and find it that way. But if there's no volume, there's no volume, right? Rate check goes out the window if there's no volume. A lot of it's, here we go, Liberty, Missouri, Florida, Texas, Georgia, Illinois, West Bend, Wisconsin to Carthage. I would do that. It's difficult to get out west unless you want to go to Texas. Nothing. Oh, here we go. Wisconsin and California. Let's see what that rate looks like. Rate checks at 28. Cargo chiefs at 41. So look at that spread, though. It goes from 28 to 4,000. That's how volatile going into California is. That's something you have to consider. California is like feast or famine, literally. But then let's look at our backhauls. 114 loads out of Cali going anywhere. 44 out of Colton, California going anywhere. So we can avoid a lot of this work by just looking at the states. And that's the thing about this load board is you can click on a direction and it'll tell you what's coming out as a backhaul. A lot of these click and go apps are doing the same thing because they recognize that there's value in that. They want to hook you for 1, 2. They don't want to just hook you for 1. They want to hook you for 2 or 3 or 4 loads in a row, which ain't a bad strategy. I literally have booked my entire week with 2 brokers, or 3. I'm sorry, 3. Not making 20 phone calls. I take it back. I did make some phone calls, but I always go back to my people that have always pulled through for me. Always. So let's look at New York. Let's say you want to be coast to coast, right? Look at these reefer rates coming out of Cali, though. $1.32, or New York, $1.92, $1.97. Here we go, $3.94, but it's $800. Here's $2. Here's one going to Cali, $3,500, $1.21 a mile. Let's see how they are on the averages. They're way below the average, which is now green screens is showing anywhere from 56 to 41. The rate check's at 37. Cargo chiefs at 44, which is about where the bills are all being sold at. And so they're way below, but none of this is above $2 a mile, which traditionally in reefer world, we're not used to that. Right? But here we are. Hope you prepared. Hope you got an edge above somebody else. Right? And again, you got the California volumes here. Oh, okay, yeah, Louisiana on the shooting. Yep. Steve, would you allow me to jump on your show? I have a few thoughts. Absolutely. So let me send you a link here. So let me unshare the screen. Sorry, I got to that comment late. I'm just going to reply to your last email here. Where are you? There you are. Reply. Copy. Paste. Yes, I say everything out loud like a 3-year-old. All right, here we go. There, see it. I sent you the thing. Migratory 5 heads. As a newer driver, any suggestions on routes to avoid, highways, roads that may be challenging or seem better, although alternative routes are better? Primarily central and east. I would say it depends on the state. If you're in Pennsylvania, make sure it's a truck approved route. Your atlas will show you that. Your old school like paper atlas will have highways highlighted that are truck friendly. Well, I wouldn't say truck friendly, but truckable, I guess. Follow your signs. It depends on what you think are challenging. I mean, that's that. the roads are better than when I started. There's a lot of bypasses around interstates. There's a lot of bypasses where areas where it used to be a lot of traffic lights. Birmingham comes to mind when it comes to something like that. But the states you got to watch out for in the backwoods is Pennsylvania. You can find yourself on some goat trails pretty easily. And just because it's a U.S. highway doesn't mean it's truckable, because you have low bridges. And then I see in here, CN, give me a second. And Arkansas, you got to be careful. Arkansas, I tend to stick with the interstates as much as I possibly can. Southeast Missouri, southwest Missouri can, you can get yourself in trouble. It just depends. As far as the Northeast goes, just use that atlas. Have a really good truck GPS, but don't rely on it 100%. Scan your intersections before you make a turn. Keep an eye on bridge heights, and just if you're cutting through the woods in Ohio or someplace like that, yeah, the roads are straight, but there's some low bridges you got to worry about, and your atlas will kind of give you a lot of that information. So as far as like, I just kind of have my alert going on certain states, like in the Northeast, Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Georgia, Arkansas, Louisiana. You just got to be careful. So, what's up, my friend? How are you?
Good. Good morning. Hopefully audio is good.
Yeah, better than mine.
Well, it should be the same.
No, for some reason you're louder, and might just, I don't know. This microphone sometimes it like, it's louder than other times. It's weird, but you're good. You're good. So
good. No, I won't stay too long. I got a super busy day, and that's hence I haven't been posting videos a whole lot. I've been super busy. But I just had this crazy thought about leveling your playing field, right? Specifically, not just leveling your. And what I mean by that is, we got obviously the hate and discontent with carriers and brokers, particularly carriers against brokers, right?
mm-hmm.
So the thought I had was, well, first and foremost is what's your goals as a carrier, and what's your capacity? Because if you have your own authority in your one truck, that's great, nothing wrong with that, right? But if you're mad at brokerages that are like, so you have one truck, so if you did a short trip every day, never took a day off, never had a breakdown, only worked on, you're just a stellar machine, you could do 365 short loads in a day, right? 365. Now, depending, again, if you're doing any longer runs, well, that's going to change. Now, the third thing is, you could, as one carrier, conceivably, if you bought 2 more trailers, so say you had your own authority, just you as a solo driver, you could own 3 trailers. You could hire a local cartage company in the cities and where you are that you like to run, so that you hire someone local who does the local picks and drops. So you're not at just shippers sitting there for hours, and you're just turning and burning, click and go, pin to pin, basically, right? Never that easy, but the concept of that. So now you could conceivably double up your volume a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But put it in the perspective. It's kind of the reason I thought of this is, in trucking, obviously everyone's like, well, we got to make more money. The way the brokers are paying us, we're not getting paid our worth per se.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone, and I'll use a couple analogies. So there's the stories, many have been on your channel, that share the good old days of trucking, going to the truck stops where the meals were like homemade cooked meals. They were reasonably priced, right? Truckers gathered there, shared their stories. That's where the real community was, right? You knew if you went to the truck stop, you'll always find someone who you can have a great chat with, and it didn't break the bank. So when those went away and things changed, and as a lot of carriers complain, like another Subway, but the concept is, why hasn't anyone else changed and come back to that model, right? And the reason is the costs. And no different than a mechanic shop. You might say, well, mechanics charging us $180 an hour. You go and open up a mechanic shop thinking I can do it for 110. And then after a while, you realize, well, for me to hire a qualified mechanics, I got to pay them more. The cost of operating is more. So we need more. And if you're a carrier, typically behind the truck, and then say, okay, I'm getting tired of these brokers, but brokers we need because sometimes, to sell off excess loads that you've secured from a shipper. So you think, oh, I can do it cheaper. Well, you'll get behind the desk, run that for 3 months, and then come back and saying, we can't afford to only get $50 a load as a broker.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't work. Right? It doesn't work. So when I say level your playing field, what's your capacity and what's your goals? Because if your goals are not to become a 10 plus truck carrier, you purposely went out and got your own authority, or you intentionally became an owner operator for a select company that you chose, and that's all you want the truck that you like, and you want to run the lanes you like, then to help alleviate stresses, don't worry about those. Playing in your level field, right? Like a solo broker can conceivably book between 1,500 to 2,000 loads a year. One solo person, because you've seen my volumes, right, Steve?
Right. Yep.
So you times that by, if you have a brokerage with 5 people, let's say 1,500, right? I won't even go to 2,000. But if they're pushing out 1,500 loads a year and there's 5 agents, that's 7,500 loads. And if you're one, that's just a 5 agent office, right? And if you are pushing out yourself, let's take that scenario, because again, if you are one truck operator and you're doing 1,000-mile loads, well, that's minimum 2 days a week. So you're looking at 2, maybe 3 loads a week if everything worked out perfectly, right? You only took 1 day off. So let's say you did 50 weeks times 3. So it's 150 loads a year, right? Doing 1,000-mile runs 3 times a week. That's 150 divided by 7,500. That's 0.2%. Right?
Yeah.
Well, it's 2% that's 2% of a 5-person brokerage volume.
Right.
So not to say you're not insignificant, but it's putting things in perspective of how much impact, like, you can sell yourself all you want. And now where I'm going with this is, if I was a small operator, and I'm not saying small is bad, I'm just saying you have to be realistic to it. It's just like a mechanic shop. If you went out and you're a car mechanic or a welder, if you're a welder and you have a truck with the welding station in the back, and people love your work, like, right? Every oil field company, when Steve does welding with his truck and he shows up on site, the quality is out of this world.
It would be too.
Right. But the issue is, you're one person. And when you've got 10,000 feet of pipe to do, how much are you getting done by yourself? Right.
Right.
So, and again, how many cars can you fix when you're one mechanic? So where I'm going with this is that I've talked about it numerous times, is, for example, if I was a small one-person carrier and I have no desire, if my goal is to add 5, 10 trucks, that's a whole different conversation to have. I'm specifically talking about, you are a 4-truck carrier. Maybe you do have 5 trucks, but that's all you want. You're not trying to get to that next level, right? That's where you want to stay. You create a nice little business. So 1 to 5 trucks. And I would say, if you are working in the spot market, because remember, I can't say others would agree, but I define the spot market as any freight that is not a contract, right? You didn't sign a contract to run this lane where they've set a flat rate plus fuel surcharge plus maybe extra stop fees, whatever, a specific contract with a broker or a specific contract with a shipper for specific lanes, right? This shipper, you signed a contract with this shipper to haul freight from their warehouse to multiple points, or whatever the case is. But it's just like you did this week. Some brokers, you've connected with some brokers, they offered you freight, you accepted it, or you went on the load board, however it is, but you're not getting it consistent. Like, you can't rely on it. It's just spot market. I call that spot market. You have network of people, and it's a spot market is what I call.
Right.
And so my theory would be, if I was in that position where, yeah, I'm not trying to become a multi-million-dollar trucking company. I just want to be me. I want to drive my truck. I want to be able to run when I want to run. I would create pillars. So if there's lanes that I like to run, and there's a shipper that's my go out load, that's maybe 50 miles. Let's say it's not even in your, like, yeah, I know for you, you have some shippers like literally in your town. But let's say your go out place that's always been good, that gets you where you've always wanted to go because they have the freight moving there. It's 50 miles away. Okay. So now you go there, instead of going into that facility, like, okay, hand them their card and try to get their business. But you know that they're like, if you're a one truck operator and you go to a warehouse and they have 50 docks or 40 docks or 30 docks, they have a lot of volume. So you might get in, but again, just think about it from the big perspective. So if I had a facility like that, where it's a fairly large facility, but and you see that there's different brokerages, I would forge my relationships with the staff there. Just like your story, the time that another Schneider guy, and then you talk the guy off the cliff, and then another person went in there and say, hey, just say Steve gave you the insight. And when just to talk the guy off the cliff, he was all had a perception and that how you fix things. So imagine if you can go to a shipper and do that same idea. You forge a relationship with them, because this shipper shops. They shop the market. They bounce between brokers. 1 month it's this broker, next month it's that. But you're not there to take away that broker relationship. Instead, you have a relationship with this broker, and all of a sudden that broker, you call them up and they say, oh yeah, we didn't get it this week. And you have enough of a relationship that you can call that warehouse not to take their business. Oh, hey, John, it's Steve. I called so-and-so, but they said they didn't get the loads this week. By chance, do you know who got those this week? Because I'm going to be available. Oh yeah, it's this company. Okay, great. So you call up that company and saying, hey, this is Steve. I pick up at this facility. I'm there every week. I know all the staff. I heard that you guys have now the business, and just seeing how I can get set up with you and how I can work with you, because I've been running this for years. I know this facility inside out. I could be a strong ally for you, right? So you're gonna play the fence. Who's ever got the business is your partner that month, that week, and you're gonna have relationships different. But like, and where that comes in, and I'm sure you can attest to this, and other drivers can attest. When a broker tells a shipper, yeah, the truck is coming, it's coming. He's just running a little bit late on traffic, and they're like, it's Friday at 4:00. Everyone wants to go. He won't make it, but they're whatever, another broker, another late driver. But they say, well, it's Steve at like, oh, okay, no problem. They know you. They trust, because you consistently have been there. So when you could build that pillar for your go out load, and if you know that you have a certain facility that, like, say you always take a load from here to there, and then you bounce somewhere and you negotiate those loads for the bidder to get here. And there's another place that's your go home place. Whenever you can get to this area, there's this facility there that, again, if you get to this town, there's a facility there that you've hauled so many times, it gets you back right close to your door. Again, instead of looking at it as, I got to get across that broker and I'm going to get that bit. Well, if you want to do that, that's fair. No problem. That's a whole different strategy. I'm talking about leveling your playing field to build your business for your success. And to me, that's a way around it that would take away the stress in life, because what you're doing is, when people know you at that facility, they know you're not a threat. You've never come in there saying, I'll take that business. Maybe the one day they'll just call you up, but they know you only have one truck. They ask you, right? Maybe you say, oh, I got 2 trailers or whatever, but that's it. So I just think, like, and it's like, when you're, depending on what you're at, think about how many people ever think about what they're doing, just thinking, I'm the trucker, I got to get paid, or I'm the broker, I'm going to gouge the trucker, and I got to get, gouge the shipper and take all this money. Sit back for a second and think about the user experience that you've provided, your interactions with the people that are offering you the freight. However, if you're working with a direct shipper or the broker, it does not matter. I'm just talking about, think about the user experience, what you've provided. What's their impression when you're done? And an example of that would be, let's take Holiday Inn Expresses, because they're all over the place, right? And some of them are franchisees. So it's just like, right, just like a McDonald's or a Subway or a broker agent, like I am. I'm an agent for a broker. And so there's the agent, and then there's brokers all around. Just like Holiday Inn Express, you got Holiday Inn Corporate, and there's they have a little different versions of names, but specific Holiday Expresses are, say, independently run. You're buying that brand and you're running that hotel. So you think, hey, every time we go to St. Louis, we've had a great experience at that Holiday Inn Express there. So now you're going somewhere else, Dallas or something for the weekend. You think, hey, let's go to Holiday Inn Express. You go there, the place wasn't as clean, the staff weren't as friendly. Why is that? Right? It's exact
Mhm.
same name. They look the same, totally different experience.
Right.
So, and where that can come from, it could be that that owner in Dallas at that facility is cheap. He doesn't pay his staff as well. He's just trying to sock money for himself. So he forces his staff to cut corners. He doesn't, get the staff to do as diligent of cleaning and so forth, doesn't follow up. And the training he's provided doesn't ensure that he's focused on getting his staff to provide the guests a great experience, right? So exact same for, just like we can go to McDonald's and you can think, okay, McDonald's consistent. Not all the time, because they're all, most of them, not all of them, quite a few of them are, but in Canada, they're all independently operated.
Mhm.
So one person would tend to own, like, if you look around how it works, if you start to study McDonald's, you'll see that, okay, one guy opened a business and he owns 5 McDonald's in this area. Then you go to another area and one person owns 5 or 6, and another person will own 5 or 6. You're going to get different experiences from each of them based on how their philosophy, if they're just trying to be cheap and save money, or are they trying to focus on the customer experience. So like those are the little things. An example of that was, I was telling you, I was in Vancouver, Canada, a week ago, and taking Uber versus Yellow Cab, I'm telling you, it was a completely different experience. It was unbelievable, the experience. The Yellow Cab guy, because it's not a flat rate. So, and it's fair that it's not a flat rate. He says he gave us a price and he says it'll be close to this, and based on the Uber, and it just happened to be that I was going to go Uber, but he pulled up, so we're like, okay, we'll hop in with you, no problem. But an example of that particular driver does not think about his user experience. So when if you're at a red light, you're coming to a red light and there's 2 cars parked,
Mhm.
and you have guests in your back seat. Well, just take your foot off the gas and coast, because the light may change green, right? And then
Mhm.
if you've been coasting, then as you get closer, you can ease into the brakes so that your back seat, the people in the back seat, don't even recognize that you're, really, it's not a hard move. But no, he's like forging ahead. Like we're driving, nothing crazy. All of a sudden, there's like 2 cars parked. I'm thinking, okay, red light, not a big deal. He puts his foot on the gas, forging ahead to these people, and then slams on his brakes. And then when he turns the corners, instead of just like casually, he'd be like, um, I told my wife, like, I literally I felt like I had whiplash. And then we come out to the last corner where we're going, and I turn into the corner, and he slams on the brakes because he wasn't paying attention. There's a car coming. He had to completely slam on the brake to avoid a crash. Like, we were like inches away, and like it was just. And then they have the shield there, like unlike an Uber, like you just felt claustrophobic. There's stickers all over. The experience was not the same. I haven't been in a Yellow Cab in a while. I've taken more Ubers when I've had it, and I can tell you that the experience compared to an Uber, and the fact that they have an app, but I couldn't put a rating or anything like that, or say what my experience was. So again, my perception now of a Yellow Cab, the next guy might be great. I mean, was he nice and stuff? Like, he helped us with our luggage and stuff. No problems there. But it was his driving style that I didn't like, because he was like constantly surging, like surging forward. He'd be gas it and gas and then stop. I'm like, why? There's like no one ahead of you. Why are you flooring it and then taking your foot off the gas? Just drive casual, drive
Well,
consistent.
to add to that, that same driver's probably griping about how Uber's taking over their space. Now, side note, anytime I've ever been in a Yellow Cab here in Springfield, I have feared for my life. Every single time, there hasn't been one Uber driver that made me go, ugh. Just every every single time for the last. I think I started had to. I think I needed a cab like 30 years ago, and it's always been the same. It's crazy, and but you're right about the customer experience. In fact, I was telling my wife yesterday about the conversation I had with the broker, this new broker I started using, and even if even if it's a normal everyday situation, she's going to remember our conversation being pleasant versus the rude driver that hates brokers that also booked a load with her because she had 3 of these, and maybe he got a better rate, maybe he didn't, but the experience in and of itself of talking to me versus talking to someone that's like, freaking brokers, um, is going to make me stand out. So she'll be happy to call. She'll be happy to take my phone call when I'm calling her for freight. And so that kind of goes with what you're saying.
Well, and also, see, I think for the most part, I think you would agree, most drivers who've gone out there, bought their own truck and trailer, either to become an owner operator or got their own authority, for the most part, have a lot of pride in their ride. So they do take the time. Their trucks are immaculate. They're DOT ready at all times for the most part, right? But if you are a one MC holder, one truck holder with your MC, and that's all you want, but you run longer, if you're running shorties, it's a little different. But if you are running longer, where you got to put miles in your week to make your earnings, to make your living, there's nothing wrong with that. But it is harder when you're behind the wheel all day long, unless you're like, you're a robot where you come off that truck after being on that truck for 10 hours. And the first thing you want to do is, after you eat, you're going to sit down and start studying the industry and learning all the new trends, what's happening. And you're doing that daily. And then when you get home, that's what you're doing. You're studying your books. You're doing this, right? You got to be a pretty hardcore individual.
Yes.
And so if you're running shorties as a 1/3 truck, you can maybe keep up. But if you're running longer, like coast to coast, I highly kind of would think having a dispatch service like yourself is helpful, only for the sake of vetting the brokers a bit more. Because when you're panicking, like, okay, it's Wednesday, I need this go home so I can get home by Monday. I've got this appointment for my truck, or I've been home in weeks. I need my go home time. When you get tired and you get panicked, you can make irrational decisions that you may come back and regret. So I think you have to really look at your business model, what you're trying to do. Think about if you're a one truck operator, you should think like the CEO of a $5 million trucking operator. If you're in the elevator with the CEO of Schneider, you should be able to have a conversation as if you had 100 trucks versus the one. You know your cost to operate. You know all the challenges that are happening there, because you're all going through the same thing. It's just that the capacities that you both have, right? You both have insurance issues. They can, obviously, the bigger you get, then you're eligible for fleet insurance, right? That changes the game. But for the most part, if you are the MC holder, you're the president, CEO of ABC Trucking, you have your one truck, maybe you have 2 trailers, but you should be able to have that conversation with the CEO. What's their thinking of if they're a $5 or $10 million CEO company, or $100 million trucking company? It's the same thing. It's just scales. So that's the mindset, like what you've talked about. If you have one truck and that's all you want to stay at is one truck with maybe a couple trailers, and you're willing to be flexible in modes, you're willing to sell that trailer and get into something different, whatever. But the point is, your goal is not to bring on multiple drivers. Then it's your job is to nail down your costing. There's lots of talks about cost per day, cost per mile, all of that. There's different ways to look at your business. You have to look at your business and nail down your number that makes sense for you, that tells you the real numbers, right? Something that at the end of the week, at the end of a year, you know your numbers. You know exactly what you need, because once you micromanage that, now you're building up your networks, you're doing your marketing. And again, it's so worth it. Even if you only have one truck, pay the few bucks to get a domain web ad, like a website, which allows you then to get that domain email address. So you can get away from the Gmails, get away from the Yahoos and the Outlook.coms, create something, dispatch at ABC Trucking. And same thing with your phone system. If you're not willing to get a VoIP, go to your cell phone provider, and there's usually a form you have to fill out or an email you have to do, but you can have your call display to show up as ABC Trucking versus your name. And set up your system so if you do run longer and you run in areas where sometimes the cell phone coverage can be spotty. I get so many people, the cellular provider you've reached does not have a voicemail, or the cellular provider you reached, the voicemail is full. And this
Yep,
is a
I
this
hate
is
that.
this is a trucking business? Really? Like, set up your voice. If you're going to be driving and you don't want to take calls, have a professional voicemail, right? It's
Um,
just set it up, but say something professional. That's the point. And check that
yep.
voicemail and return messages. And you can pay for the fee to get the messages show up as text messages. But I highly encourage the VoIP system if you can. Like, go back to the DIY 3-hour presentation we did. Go back to the other ones that I've done on Steve's. There's, we talk about the looms as a way to market yourself after a video, build that deep relationship. So there's so much doing, but I don't know how many are actually doing it.
I want to go back to your micromanaging comment. So a lot of, at Schneider, one of the biggest complaints of the owner operators there is that they micromanage, right? So, and it's frustrating in the driver's eyes. And this is something that Schneider has to understand, is because when you're micromanaging everything, but then you go to pick up a trailer and it's got 2 flat tires, no brakes, and the airline's busted, because the last 3 drivers left it like that, it gets kind of frustrating. But what I tell people when they get away from Schneider, when they get away from the mega carrier micromanaging, you have to micromanage yourself. And I think a lot of people forget that. It's like when you get if you come over to like trucking, you get a lot of freedom. You can within the realms of our factoring company, you can book with who you want, you can book whatever you want as long as it's within our legal realms. You're in control of the ship. And a lot of people can't handle that kind of freedom. They need to be told every step of the way. They need to be micromanaged, right? And so, and they don't even realize it. So if you don't micromanage yourself, you're not on, because I guarantee you, if I'm in the elevator with the CEO of Snyder, he's paid people to micromanage and know all those details for him. He may not know those things, but he's got people under him that do. And if the CEO was to go, so what's your cost running right now? I'm like, well, my last deposit slip was $5,000. Does that count? He's going to be like, you're going to last 2 seconds in this world. So you have to learn to micromanage yourself, micromanage your costs. It doesn't matter if it's a good market or a bad market. You run it the same. And it's just how you distribute the money at that point, whether it's a good market or bad market, because the bad times help you survive the good times. That's just law of nature. You feast, and then during famine, you fast and let your reserves go for as long as you can. But a lot of people need to realize that they have to micromanage themselves, and most people can't even pay attention enough to, do the right thing and take a shower and not be an a-hole to people on the phone or at the shipper receiving office.
Well, and that goes back to that whole discussion around, okay, so you went out and bought a truck, or you want to buy a truck. And the question is, do you stay as an owner operator, or do you get your own authority? And that's no different than that of a freight broker versus the freight agent. My thing would be is, obviously, depending on where you run. If you're only going to run 1 or 2 states, just doing simple dry van freight, no hazmat, no nothing else, then sure, getting your own authority probably is not the big deal. But if you want to be running beer loads or alcohol loads, and you want to run different states, you want to run interstate in different states, that's where I wouldn't close my eyes that you think you're giving up the 20%, but you're also giving up a lot of your personal time to get all those in the initial setups and the maintenance of that. So if I was in a shoes where I'm like, okay, I'm a company driver, I've been doing this for a while. Yeah, I'm tired of the slip seating every day. Different trucks, the dirty, blah, blah, blah. I want my own truck. Okay, that's fair. And so I'm gonna deal with that. But now it's like, how do I do this? Should I become my own authority, or should I join an owner operator? I would make a list of what your goals are, what you're trying to do in trucking. Then make a list of, if you find out, so you can go through the process, just write them down, type them, write them down, but every step that you have to do to get your own authority. Then find potential carriers that accepting owner operators and sit down with them and say, look at the states you're planning to run. And if they require special interstate authorities, If you do like, hey, I live near somewheres where there's Budweiser's or some other alcohol brands or something, or hazmat. I was a hazmat driver. I want to keep doing that. As you know, there's a lot of costs and requirements along that. And so if you talk to an owner operator and you say, what are you doing versus what I have to do? If I'm with you, what are you doing for me? Like, what do you have in place versus what I have to do on top of that? Like, who's filing the IFTAs? How accurate is that? So I know I'm not getting gouged and so forth. And then you have to weigh, because sometimes having a carrier who has like with like having these different authorities in place where you don't have to go reinvent the wheel, start the wheel again, and assess whether or not it's actually viable to, maybe it's more viable to give up that 20% so that you have a carrier. And also the other factor, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, obviously when you have one truck and you have a couple DOT incidents, even though you're immaculate, but they found something, one mud flap hanger, a headlight at the wrong time, even though you're always monitoring it, it can happen, right? So also you get this violation. Well, one violation of one truck really affects your rating on your insurance and perception of brokers. When you're an owner operator with a bigger carrier, if you have a violation, your number doesn't come down near as much because it's part of the pool of however many owner operators that carrier has, correct?
Yes.
So therefore, that in itself can be a significant factor. If you don't want to have to deal with a lot, because where I'm going with this, I've been talking, Sage has mentioned this, and I've been talking to Steve about it, but I didn't think it would happen so quick. But I recently came back from our annual brokerage retreat where we gather once a year. And it's amazing how fast, like, Go Highway is one of them. Like, is it all revolutionary information? No, but what it's doing is it's capturing it all in one spot. So I can look up an MC in one location now. I don't have to dig around through the FMCSA. I don't have to dig around through different websites. But I can go into look at one MC, and I can tell you your VIN number of your trailer. I can tell you the VIN number of your trucks. I can tell you every DOT inspection you've had. I can tell you if there's crashes, and et cetera. And the crash is supposed to be kind of confidential. But the point is, the technology is out there, that it's AI, as far as it's been talked about, is I don't see AI replacing humans, but what AI I see happening is it's taking our current team, like our current TMS is able to integrate. And the two that are really big is gohighway.com, and the other one is parade.ai. And we're utilizing those tools, and parade.ai is allowing us that. So every agent now in our office, as soon as they create a load, it automatically, unless we uncheck it at the time of creating the load, will automatically post it to Parade through their network, and then essentially that blasted out to the DATs, the truck stops, etc., to multiple load boards, including 123 load board. So there's a lot of integration. That's really what I see, and then it's now gonna basically the AI is gonna gather data faster. So that's why this is the time, and I've talked about this. When I say how many of you, I think the last time I came on, I said it's May. Go back to last year. What loads did you haul that you were happy with? Maybe they weren't the highest paying, but you were happy with those loads as far as ease of loading, unloading, etc. There's always that give and take. Some pays really high, but that comes with a price. Takes a long time to unload, and they don't pay attention, or they leave your trailer a mess and you got to clean it for an hour afterwards, etc. There's different things that you got to do. Or you have to go to a site where it's harder on your suspension because you got to go through dirt roads, etc. So you got to weigh all these factors in a load. But with all these integrations happening, the way it's setting up, that's why you're seeing less and less brokers posting. They're creating more so they're creating their own internal load boards, is essentially what's happening, or they're tying it into these, they are posting it to that and so forth, but it's all coming from their TMS is what is happening essentially. So their goal is that more and more brokers are using these tools so that freight that you're on, the goal is if you're taking a load to, say, Texas, that over time you're going to start to see that more and more brokers are going to start to call you, hey, you're on this load with us. We have a load going out of Texas in that same town going back here. And they're going to, that back and forth. So the goal is that through these integrations, having a good relationship with brokers or the shippers, whomever, however you're getting the freight, solidify those, re-solidify those. And but basically, yeah, you just really think of, if you're an owner operator or you have your own authority, what's the last image or the last impression you want left about your company, so that when people, if you leave a certain impression that you're looking for, do that consistently. And that's all I can say is be consistent, build your brand and your level of customer service, and play in your playing field. So don't worry about the rest, right? Because trucking, well, I call it trucking logistics, because there's a lot more to trucking. There's warehousing, there's drayage, there's a lot to this world. Build your brand, be consistent, build your network, and keep solidifying those relationships. People at those brokerages may come and go, agents may leave, but if you ran a certain lane for that brokerage and all of a sudden say, oh, that person's no longer here, find out who's the next person that's covering that, right? And build those relationships. Build and look. You have to dig. I think I've sent you a couple of times some different companies, brokerages to call, the brokerages that you don't normally hear about, and that's, you got to find these. You got to be willing to send an email to some brokerages that you don't know. Especially, you can look up and see how long they've been around. But like I said, go back to the videos that I've done with Steve here before. Go back to the DIY 3-hour marathon presentation, but there's some nuggets in there. It's all chaptered. It's all in chapters on that that 3-hour feed. You can skip ahead to the portions that you want to see about, and it's all broken down.
Excellent. Well, so, CDN, I
thanks so
appreciate your input. Thank you for coming on, and go ahead.
No, that's it.
Your channel.
I just wanted to share those kind of crazy thoughts. I'm not sure if they're valid or not, but I know most here seem to most of your guests or the people in the chat know their lanes, they know their business, but you're always trying to help out those that are still maybe struggling or new to the industry.
Yep. We appreciate your input. CDN, you have a great day. Thank you.
Talk to you guys later.
All right, later. All right, that was CDN. So I've got work calling. So everybody, thanks for coming in for the show today. I'm going to try to go live tomorrow if it's not raining. And on the small channel, make sure you subscribe to Snorelord OG. If you're interested in coming to Like Trucking, go to liketrucking.com if you own your truck. And you don't want your own authority, come over here, and also 480-65 for the 123 low board. If you have any interest in that, 30 days free, $35 a month for all the premium features except for Cargo Cheap, which is an add-on. It's a low board that I actually use quite a bit when I need a low board. So with that being said, thanks for watching. Strength for today, hope for tomorrow. Aggression turns to screw. See you guys. Here, we'll start over. There. Peace. Oh, screw this. Later.